Hi, it's the M.L.M for the Soul channel. I do have a new topic for today. Before I begin, I just would like to say, may the words and expressions of my mouth and the thoughts and meditations of my heart find favor and acceptance for Baruch Hashem. And today is going to be the start of a long-term series. I don't know how long this is going to go. The reason is because my mother had mentioned to me that she heard, oh, you should learn Mussar. Mussar is like ethics, morals, rebuke, things to get you to do tshuva, like to wake you up. And I said, oh yeah, and she asked me if I have any books on, like Mussar books, and I said, yeah, I do. I have one called Mesillas Yesharim, which means path, or way of the upright. I was just thinking that would be a great thing to start studying with everybody who's going to be listening, and I can refresh myself. I believe I've gone through this book only once, and I know I should be going through it much more times. So I decided that that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to keep this not too long, so I'm going to keep track of the time. Hopefully, just do maybe like 20-minute segments. So this is going to be a long-term series, and if you don't know about Meshamayim Lomdim Mussar, this is the one I have. There's many different ones you can get. This is the Yafa edition from ArtScroll. I'll show you what this. It's a beautiful book, and I believe they also have. This is the hardcover edition. You also have it, I think, in softcover and in a smaller size, like a pocket size. And it's not tiny pocket, but meaning that you could take it with you. This is a heavier book, although that is probably also not very light, because it's a pretty long sefer. You should really call it. It's over 500 pages. So if you don't know about Meshamayim Lomdim Mussar and who wrote it, we're gonna kind of start at the beginning, and we're gonna really go through this page by page. And I'm not gonna read the publisher stuff, but just a little background. Meshamayim Lomdim Mussar was written by Meshamayim Lomdim Mussar. The Ramchal is the acronym, and I will also have a link below to ArtScroll, so you can check out any of their Svarim and Judaic, and they have great things that you could purchase. So just so you know, if you've never heard about this, the Vilna Gaon, he saw this book, Meshamayim Lomdim Mussar, and he says, if Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto were still alive, I would go across Europe on foot to learn from him. That's how amazing this book was, that even the Vilna Gaon would have done that. So it says here, centuries have gone by since the Ramchal composed this. For millions it's been and remains the guide to ascend the ladder of spiritual growth, refinement of character, and to come close to Hashem. So this was just dedicated by the Yafa family. That's who dedicated. So I'm not going to go through this part, but I do want to do the forward. So what we might actually end up doing is just the forward today, and not even, and there's so much. There's also the bibliography of all the different commentaries. But I think we're going to start with the, I'll read through the publisher's preface, because I think, skip that, through the forward, so you know a little bit more about this rabbi and what he's done, and it's pretty amazing. So, because this is a few pages here, so I think we'll go through that. So the forward for Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, the Ramchal, and Mesillas Yesharim. So the author of Mesillas Yesharim was one of Klal Yisrael's greatest and most enduring teachers of the last 300 years. Now this book was published, I don't know when, but he was born, well, in the 1700s, so a long time ago. His works have shaped Torah leaders in every segment of our people, from the Vilna Gaon and Rabbi Yisrael Salanter to the Maggid of Mezrich and the Bnei Yissaschar, and many others. Meshamayim Lomdim has gone through scores of printings and several translations, has attracted many commentaries, and is one of the select standard works of Mussar in yeshivas, study groups, and the private studies of accomplished as well as ordinary people searching earnestly for spiritual elevation. That's why I decided we're going to do this. So this is part one of many parts. I don't know how long it'll take, like I said, but it's worthwhile to do this, and then you can always go back and listen. And of course, if you want to I suggest getting a copy of the book too, because it's good to have your own copy so you could read it yourself. So now about the author. Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, commonly known by the acronym Ramchal, was born in Padua, Italy in 1707, that's in the secular calendar year. In the Jewish calendar year, it was 5467. And we're in 5782, so that's how long ago that was. From an early age, he devoted himself to Torah study at the highest level. His many works demonstrate his complete command of the written and oral Torah, as well as the hidden wisdom of Kabbalah. It is reported that by the time he was 14, he was fluent in all of the Kabbalistic teachings of the Zohar and the Holy Arizal. That's how profound he was. We can't even imagine that that kind of person existed, right? When he was 17, the Ramchal became leader of a small group of like-minded young men known as Mivakshei Hashem, which means seekers of Hashem. They studied together intensively, and dedicated themselves to prepare the world for the presence of the Shekhinah. When he was 20, Ramchal began to experience a new phenomenon that transformed his life. It elevated him to an even higher spiritual level, what's called a Magid, which is a heavenly messenger, the actual form and nature of which we cannot even fathom, began to visit him and teach him new insights into the mysteries of creation. So Magid is, we don't even know what that means, but to have, this is just me saying, of course, to be given that gift, and it is a gift, you have to be on such a level, because he doesn't come to us, right? Okay, so then he even had revelations from the prophet Eliyahu, that's Eliyahu Hanavi. Ramchal was a prolific writer and recorded the teachings of these heavenly intermediaries. After these revelations became known, the Ramchal left Padua and lived in Frankfurt for a short time, and then in 1735 or 5495 in the Jewish calendar, he moved to Amsterdam, where he enjoyed perhaps the most productive period of his life. He supported himself as a diamond polisher, but devoted himself mainly to studying and writing. He wrote scores of works, many of which have been lost. But during his years in Amsterdam, he wrote 3 volumes, among others, that to this day are studied as textbooks of faith and understanding of the divine plan for the people of Israel and the world, and of the proper way for a Jew to fulfill his mission in life. Messillas Yesharim, Baruch Hashem, and Das Tivunos, those were the 3 books, which, or you could call them Svarim, they're really Svarim. While the latter 2 works, and many of Ramchal's other writings are more esoteric, Messillas Yesharim is a straightforward presentation of the man's purpose in life and how he can ascend the ladder of spirituality. Despite its many profound concepts, it is written simply enough to be understood by any reader. From his youth, Ramchal had longed to settle in Eretz Yisrael, and in 1743, which is 5503 in the Jewish calendar, he was finally able to realize his dream. With his family, he left Amsterdam and settled in Akko. Tragically, in 1747, so that's only, 4 years later, which is 5507, they all died in an epidemic shortly before his 40th birthday. He's buried in Tiberias, beside the grave of the Talmudic sage and martyr Rabbi Akiva. Now about Messillas Yesharim. So in chapter 6 of Messillas Yesharim, the Ramchal writes about the trait of zerizus, which is alacrity in energetic pursuit of perfection. He says, K'moshe tzarich pikhut gadol v'hashkafa rabba linatzel mimoshkei hayetzer shelo yishlot banu lihit arev v'ma'asenu kein tzarich pikhut gadol v'hashkafa le'echoz b'mitzvot u'lizkot b'hem v'lo tovadna mimenu. So in English, just as it requires keen perception and great foresight to be saved from the snares of the evil inclination, so that it not dominate us and intrude itself into our deeds, so does it require keen perception and foresight to seize mitzvot and acquire them so that they are not lost to us. So you have to have, he's saying on both sides, you have to have that keen perception and foresight, to whether it's to stop the evil inclination or to have the mitzvot and actually do them. So the greatest sages of recent centuries have declared that every word, they said, of Messillas Yesharim is laden with meaning. So one can hardly pick a single sentence as a key to the work. Nevertheless, this one statement gives a good idea of what Ramchal set out to do, and he succeeds like few others. In his work, he provides us with, quote, keen perception and great foresight, enlightening the serious reader how to craft his life into a masterpiece of service to Hashem and personal perfection. One might think that such a lofty goal is beyond human capability, but as myriads have shown in the 3 centuries that they have embraced the work as a guide to personal elevation, Messillas Yesharim can take them to heights they never thought possible. Everyone according to his potential and desire. Just as no 2 people are exactly alike, no 2 people reach the same level in the quest, but everyone can make the effort and climb steps on the ladder of spiritual advancement. How does one do so? Ramchal shows us the way. The most eloquent testimony, before I say that, I just want to say that he gives you like these definite steps, and it goes according to somebody else. But what I wanted to say was that if you're going to do them, you have to do them. Like, you have to do them specifically the way he tells you. You can't just like say, okay, I'm going to do this, but not do that. So it's like each step builds on the one before. So the idea is if you're going to do it and you're going to achieve what he's saying you can achieve, you have to follow that. I just wanted to say that. So here it says the most eloquent testimony to how well he succeeds in the way Mesillas Yesharim have been described by some of the the way the Mesillas Yesharim has been described by some of the foremost spiritual leaders and teachers of Israel. The Vilna Gaon was 27 years old when Ramchal died, and did not see Mesillas Yesharim in the author's lifetime. When he saw the work, he said, "A new light has appeared in the world. If the author were alive, I would have gone on foot to meet him." I read that before. He had such high regard for the work that he reviewed it often. The Vilna Gaon is reported to have said, after reviewing the first 10 chapters of the work, that there is not one superfluous word. Then whatever level I have achieved in life are due to Mesillas Yesharim. That's from the Maggid of Kuznets, quoted in Dor Dea. When Rav Yosef Zundel of Salant took leave of his Rosh Yeshiva, Rav Chaim of Volozhin, he asked which Mussar work he should learn. Rav Chaim said, all Mussar works are good to learn, but you should be guided by the Mesillas Yesharim. And then it also says, my spiritual path and my guidance in life comes primarily from Mesillas Yesharim. That's from Ohel Yisrael of Akta. Next it says, if you wish to satisfy your soul through understanding the Baraisa of Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair, that's what he bases Mesillas Yesharim on. He gives you like a guideline, and I'll be going through that as we progress. So he says, if you want to satisfy yourself through the understanding upon which the Mesillas Yesharim is based, that's in the Ramchal's introduction, which we'll get to, study Mesillas Yesharim closely. It is sweeter than honey and honeycombs. I like that. That's from the Bnei Yischaschar and Tosefes Maharza to Sur Mei Rach. Ramchal compressed entire books into one sentence of Mesillas Yesharim. The entire work is based on Kabbalah, but it is presented so clearly that anyone can understand it. That's Rabbi Yerucham Lubavitz in Das Chachma Mussar, Volume 1, page 249. So one of the leading Rosh Yeshiva of the last century, Rabbi Cheskel Charna of the Chevron Yeshiva in Yesharim, wrote Iyunim, which is a commentary on Mesillas Yesharim. The following is based on his introduction. So a lot of people wrote commentaries. I believe last couple of weeks I was talking about Rabbi Victor Miller, and he was very much into Mussar, and I'm actually listening to Archos Tzadikim right now, and he has, I don't think they're doing CDs anymore, but he has books. So there's a lot of great rabbis, more contemporary, that actually did commentary on it. So this is one from him. So he says, just as the Rambam composed a halachic work encompassing the entire corpus of Torah law, the Ramchal composed a roadmap in the service of Hashem and a Jew's spiritual path to self-perfection. Heretofore, the gates to such personal elevation were closed, and many who sought to open them lacked the knowledge to do so. Many attempted and failed, making many errors along the way, until Hashem, in His mercy, sent the Ramchal, the guide who understood all the paths of divine service and awe of the Almighty, with total knowledge and understanding of the, quote, foundation of piety and the root of perfect service of Hashem, the phrase that begins this masterpiece. Ramchal charted the way for everyone to this day. His genius is that he instilled the teachings of the sages, and such classic works as Chavos HaLevavos and Sharei Teshuvah, to produce a work that encompasses everything in a step-by-step, systematic guide to personal growth in character development and service of Hashem. That's what I'm saying. It's a guide. It's like he goes step by step, and he breaks down really clearly for everyone, like even like the most basic person that doesn't really understand a lot, but he makes it so basic. But again, it's a process, so if you want to really achieve what he says you can achieve, you have to follow it. So, and then of Mesillas Yesharim, it can be said, as Ben Bagbag said of the Torah itself, Hafach ba v'hafach ba v'chol ba. Delve in it and delve in it, for everything is in it. That's from Avos, Perkei Avos 5:26. Only someone with all-encompassing knowledge, unsurpassed understanding, and clarity of expression could gather and organize all the principles of piety and service of the Almighty into a comprehensive, complete, and convincing guide to spiritual growth and character perfection. That someone was Rav Moshe Chaim Lutzato, the Ramchal. So now we're up to the last section here for this forward, and then we're going to stop. Or I'm going to stop. So, deceptive simplicity is what this is called. So Ramchal wrote in his introduction, I did not compose this work to teach people what they do not know, but rather to remind them of what they already know and is abundantly evident to them. Well, I think he's being very modest, because But a lot of these things, I don't know that I knew, but he was very modest. For you will not find in most of my words anything other than matters that most people know and do not doubt at all. It is entirely possible that after reading the Sefer, the reader will not find in his mind novel ideas that were not already present in his mind prior to reading it, other than a few points, which I disagree, and a lot of rabbis think the same, that he has a lot of new things to share. So the Ramchal's, like the next sentence actually says what I just said, the Ramchal's modest description is deceptive. His clean style and purity of the language is such that the reader may well think that he need not exert much intellectual energy to truly understand the work. In this, Mesillas Yesharim is similar to Rambam's Yad HaChazaka, whose clarity masks its profundity. In both works, one may grasp their content on an elementary level, while being very far from absorbing their depth. If even so great a sage as the Vilna Gaon could say that after studying 10 chapters, there is not a single superfluous word, surely every word is deserving of careful analysis. Rav Shlomo Wolbe, of the leading Mussar masters of our time, and the mentor and guide of countless mashgichim, spiritual teachers, wrote in Alei Shur, Volume 1, page 30, which has become one of the Mussar classics of our time. He says, the, quote, dictionary of the entire study of character development is, in concise form, is Mesillas Yesharim. From it, one can learn all character traits and all their manifestations. As we do so, we also learn the ways of thought and deed that lead us to attain the level to which the Torah guides us. As is known, Rav Chaim of Volozhin, the primary rabbi of Rav Zundel of Salant, who himself was a primary influence on Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, told Rabbi Zundel that he should adopt the work as his guide in life. Closer to our times, the Mesillas Yesharim was a constant on the Chafetz Chaim study table and in the Talis Beg of Rav Chaim Ozer Grodzinski. These Torah luminaries, the acknowledged leaders of Torah Jewry in the first half of the 20th century, shaped their lives according to the guidelines of Mesillas Yesharim. That's how powerful and important it was for them. The first few times a young person studies it, he may wonder about this because he may think that he sees nothing new in Mesillas Yesharim. He may think that even the portrayal of the character traits and levels of achievement are too simplistic. However, the more a person grows, this is a key sentence, and the more his knowledge and perceptions develop, the more he will recognize the wondrous depth and breadth of the work. Rabbi Rucham Levavitz, the Mashgiach of the pre-World War II Mirror Yeshiva, used to say that Mesillas Yesharim is the distillation of all the Kabbalah works of Ramchal. This means that in its entirety, it is based on the hidden wisdom of truth. But we cannot recognize this when we study it. Nevertheless, this marvelous work is our entry to the inner wisdom of the Torah. When we study it over and over, without fatigue or superficiality, we gradually become accustomed to recognize the inner depths of this word. This is another key sentence, so it's got to be studied over and over to really grasp it. And of ourselves, to recognize it in words and of ourselves. So I'll read that sentence over because I stopped. Okay. When we study it over and over without fatigue or superficiality, we gradually become accustomed to recognize the inner depth of its words and of ourselves. The gateway to comprehension of the inner depth of the Torah is Mesillas Yesharim. The greatest minds and the most perceptive hearts of our people have marveled at the magnificence of this work. Let us follow this example and guidance and delve in it, for everything is in it. So that's where I'm going to stop. I'm going to start BeEzrat Hashem, read the introduction. There's a bibliography first, and we'll head into it. But this gives you a little idea of who Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, the Ramchal, is, and what he was about, and what actually leaders that came after him thought of him, how great he was. So, and I hope and pray that we will all merit to live and see the coming of Mashiach speedily in our days and the rebuilding of our final and everlasting Beit HaMikdash. Amen. And thanks for watching.